Hey Anirudhe,
Hi Samir, how are you?
very good. How are you? Welcome to the show,
Hey, thank you so much for the opportunity. Good to see you.
Leading with Clarity. So,
Really.
uh, quick one. This is how I always start the show. To
Tell me.
kick off with the one thing that you have shared on the flyer, which is I see leadership not as a dominance but as an act of service.
Yeah.
It's the ability to unite people in pursuit of a purpose greater than themselves, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I was quite intrigued that you have chosen to put the word dominance into a statement that you're making about leadership.
Mm, mm.
What made you talk about dominance? Is it the default setting in most leaders? Is that the reason, or is it something else?
Oh, leadership is very varied among people, right? People have varied way of leading people, right? And I think leadership is a huge word. I think most of the world is still as people managers, right? Leadership is something which is far, far beyond. But in my 25 years of experience, I have been through many, many leaders who have shaped me the way I am today, right? And the way I behave today and manage my team. And I've seen the most successful ones who have left an imprint in my life are the ones who have carved me through service rather than through dominance. Those who have made me more curious and helped me ask questions rather than telling me what I need and what I should do. And that's where I found it very interesting that there is a way you lead people through dominance, but there's also a way which we call today as servant leadership, right? Where you actually help people become better leader than you are, right? And you take it as an act of service to create those leaders in your self journey, right? That's why I've picked that word particularly to phrase my understanding of leadership.
Have you had leaders who were dominating?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
early stages of career. Not leaders only. Even myself, when I became again a people manager, first time when I started leading a team, 25 years back. Um, I thought I had all the answers. I thought that's the only way to lead people. And during the course of journey, I realized that you don't get the best out of people through that.
why is it that you don't get the best out of people if you are dominating?
There's a very interesting book, Liz Wiseman, called Multiplier. I don't know if you had a chance to read that book. Very old book, right? But it's still relevant in today's world. The name of the book itself is Multiplier. You know,
Hmm.
the book talks about how leaders, how there are two type of leaders in this world, right? One is a diminisher, and one is a multiplier, right?
Hmm.
So when you walk into a room, when there are a group of people sitting there, a set of people sitting there, what is the feeling that they have when you walk into that room? Do light bulbs go on their head and say, hey, this leader will help us become better individuals and make us great performers? Or do all the lights just go sharp and say, oh, here comes the person who will pick up the pen and tell us all that we need to do and we need to know, right? And in that book, it very clearly defines if you can generate curiosity within people and if you can ignite people to seek questions, then you can actually take 10x out of them. So that's where my thought of why it doesn't help people.
Hmm.
I don't know if that answers your question to that particular to that point.
It does, and I love the fact that you have pulled up a reference point like Liz Wiseman's multipliers into the
Yeah,
conversation because
yeah,
this was a short conversation we had before we just started today, where you said, "Can
yeah,
I reference books and can I reference frameworks that I depend on?"
yeah.
What do you think is the importance of continuous learning for people who want to be more effective as leaders?
Um, I think curiosity is very important, because, and this is my experience. When I was going through my career, I was in Infosys, and then at first Wipro, and then Infosys. I realized, and I did a grave mistake of not acquiring knowledge. And if you know, those days, acquiring knowledge was also not easy, right? Knowledge was not democratized. Internet was there, but the maximum source you had were books, right? There were no podcasts, or there were no. So it was very difficult, and I did a grave mistake of not acquiring knowledge. And when you don't do that, you actually limit your thought, and you don't have a perspective. The moment I started the journey back of learning, and today I make sure that I at least have 2 books by my bedside, I realized that you have a great perspective of how diverse the world is. And as you said, if you keep learning, then you can actually give those perspective to your people, right? Today, as an example, if I have to talk, people is talking about technology, right? Generative AI and all that. The whole world is going all over the place with that, and it's a journey, right? But if I don't learn myself as a leader in the organization, I can't bring a perspective, right? So I think as a leader, if you have to be effective and collectively lead a team, you need to be genuinely curious about knowing things around you and beyond you.
How do you pick what book to read next? And what are the 2 books that you have at your bedside right now?
So one is driven by my son. So whatever he reads, I try to read the same one. So he's into cricket. He reads all the cricket books. So I just finished Brian Lara's 501. It's a beautiful book. Yeah, his journey is amazing. And the second book, which I finished right now, is of a gentleman called Ed Jackson. He was a rugby player at the prime of his career in Bath, right? He used to play rugby. Then one day he jumped on the shallow end of the pool, and his 6th and 7th vertebrae broke, and neck down he was paralyzed, right? The first thing doctor said, you won't survive. The second thing the doctor said, you will never walk. And if you read his life story, he has just summited Mount Meru 6-7 years back, right? And he runs an organization called Millimeters to Mountains. I think that's a great book to read if you have to build resilience, if you have to overcome your self-doubts, and that's a great journey to be with. So these are the 2 books which is right now next to my bedside, but yes, books are a part of the journey.
And how do you choose your books? What to read? You said your son, but is there any other
So
way? Because I'm just thinking about the audience also.
no,
There might be people who would be thinking there are so many books out there, right?
so many books.
And there are so many out there to pick and choose from, and the
Yeah.
overwhelm can make you not do it at all.
Same with me, right? So it's very difficult for me, but it is also where am I at a point of my life, right? So I tell you, I pick a book if I'm struggling, if I'm in doubt, if I'm constantly in self-doubt, right, and I'm not able to see to the end of the tunnel, then maybe I'll pick a book which is real life, right? I'll pick a book which exemplifies grit, right? So I pick a book there. If I'm looking for a framework or a concept, I'm struggling to put a business case together, right? So I might pick up a book which is a management book. If I'm struggling with my team and I see that I have a consistent issue with the team, right, and they're getting multiple challenges, right, I might pick up a book which talks about team and leadership and building, how to build a cohesive teams. So I think you should pick up a book which solves a problem for you at that point of time. I don't think you should not. I personally feel acquiring knowledge is one thing, but applying it is another thing, right? And that's where the value of reading comes into play. So I always pick a book which solves a problem for me, which is right now with me at this point of time.
Lovely. I love that perspective. Here's a question for you. You've climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, right? And you're talking about Ed Jackson as well. So I thought this is a very important question that we could actually address. What is the toughest moment on that journey, physically and metaphorically for you? And how do you
Oh,
connect it to the professional life? If there was something that you went through during that journey, which clicked or switched something for you for the rest of your life in the way of being, for your
mm.
people, for your team members, was there a moment like that? I'm just curious.
The most difficult part of climbing Kilimanjaro started before climbing Kilimanjaro. The most difficult thing in your life is to start a journey.
Yeah.
I was so not convinced that I can do it that I was resistant to even start signing up for the journey. Right? It took me 3 months to sign up for that journey. It took me 3 months to go out on my first walk in the mountains. Right. So the most difficult part of any journey, I think, is to start. Once you start, and once you show up, I think you're 80% done, right? Because that's the thing, right? Once you show up, the Kili's journey is very interesting, right? So Kili is world's largest freestanding mountain. It's the Africa's highest volcanic peak, right? And Kili is the only mountain where you change 5 topographies, right? So you start with rainforest and you end up in the Arctic zone, right? So it keeps changing, and every day is a different flavor, Samir. I can't tell you, every day is a different flavor in that mountain, right? You start with your shoes being in mud, next day you're in the forest, then you are in the cold, and then cold and the cold, right? uh, the most difficult part of my journey was the last day. And why it was the last day? Because I was so close to where I wanted to be, and I was so afraid that I might not be able to make it, because 6 days I was quite fatigued, right? Oxygen levels were low. We were at 30%. It's a night climb. It starts at 12 at midnight and it goes up to 8:30 in the morning. It's minus 30 degrees with the wind chill. Your water is frozen. Your legs are tired, and you are in constant doubt in yourself and saying, I am so close. Will I make it or will I not make it? Will I make it? Will I not make it? And that doubt accelerates and with you, because there are other mountaineers, right? Some are faster than you, some are slower than you, and you can see a whole light of torchlights ahead of you, right? And you're saying, oh, some has reached, some are behind me. But that's the time when my guide told me a very interesting thing. He said, this is your journey, right? First, this is nobody's journey. This is your journey, right? Be at peace with that journey. Don't try to see who's ahead of you, who's behind you, because this mountain is not about who reaches first. This mountain is about to reach, right? This mountain is about the journey of reaching, right? The second thing he said, make sure you use your resources the right way. Your energy, your water, your food, your chocolate, whatever you have resources, right? You breathe okay, don't rush. So what I learned from that last piece is, in your life, you will always be crunch of resources, Samir. You will never have enough, right? But you have to make sure you identify which resources are the most important resources at that point of time in your life and use them wisely. I think that was my learning at that point of time, when I was left to the mercy of the nature and I was looking around and say, oh my God, how will I reach? It's 1,000 meter, 8 hours, and it was really tough that day.
Wow. And there will always be people who are ahead of you and behind you in life,
Always, always,
right?
always,
Just focus on
always.
your own journey, not about who is ahead or who is behind.
And he made a joke. I said, am I going slow? So my Tanzanian coach was with me. He turned around and said, do you have anything else to do? I said, no, I just have to climb. He said, then what's the rush? I said, okay, that's very interesting. But it's a very interesting perspective, right? That you don't live in the moment most of your life, right? You're always either worried of your future, or you're procrastinating your past, or you're just not in the moment, right? And he just shook me there and said, what's the rush? You have nowhere else to go. This is your journey, right? Most beautiful 4.5 hours of your life.
And they keep saying, no, pole, pole.
Pole, pole,
Keep
slowly, slowly, right? So
slowly,
that's
slowly.
the journey. Yeah,
It,
that's the
it it
journey.
is about, yeah, here's a comment from May Halwani. Very
Yeah,
inspiring. Be at peace with your journey. Use your
yeah,
resources wisely.
yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. But
And
it's absolutely phenomenal. There are many stories for
what
those 6 days,
what did
but
you come back? How did your approach to the people around you shift after you came
mm,
back from that journey? What did you start doing differently? Was there anything that you started doing differently you noticed?
So when I came back, yeah, so a lot of people wanted to know the story, right? Because everybody's interested to, and that's interesting when ordinary people try to do something which is not so ordinary, right? When suddenly you find, hey, your friend has climbed Kilimanjaro, right? There's a story around it, and everybody, and I'm so humbled. People walked up to me and said, can we do it? I said, everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. It's not about you being fit or not fit. What changed in me, particularly Samir, is that my self-belief went skyrocketing, and not in a dimension where I've started making some foolish things, right? But my between rationality, within the realm of rationality, my self-belief was boosted. I told myself that humans' mind has infinite power, right? And if you can work with positivity, then you can achieve anything, right? You have to just self-believe that you can do it. And that's what I keep telling my team, right? That challenges will come. Challenges are part of the journey. And challenges are always exciting, and challenges are the opportunities that you get over and become a better and a stronger person. Everything that I did on that mountain was new to me. And everything I did on that mountain did not guarantee I will be successful. And that's how exactly life is. Every day, what we do is new to us. And every day, if we have that self belief that we will do it, I think we'll get over it. That's what shifted in me when I came back.
Very interesting perspective. And I'm thinking not everybody can go climb Kilimanjaro to build on that self-belief, right? But that self-belief is something that a lot of people actually struggle with. So from your perspective, what is it that somebody can start doing so that they reinforce to them their own self-belief that they're capable of so much more than they are already doing? You as a leader, you have a lot of people around you, you're constantly doing this perhaps on a day-to-day basis. uh, and giving advice is one thing
Easy.
because you're coming from your context, and for them they're like, yeah, it's so easy for you to tell, we are the one who's going through doubts in our minds. So do you have a framework or something that they can apply which can help them overcome this doubt and build on their self-belief and self-confidence?
So, Samir, I live in self doubt every day. Yeah, I live in, and as I said, forget leadership. I am evolving myself, and I think everybody is evolving themselves, right? I live in self doubt every day. But what I found very interesting in life, and I tell everybody, find an anchor.
Hmm.
Whenever you're in self doubt, find an anchor, right? Whenever you're in sadness, find an anchor. If you see, there's a book about the 5 a.m. Club. I don't know if you read that book, right? It
Robin
talks about
Sharma.
beautiful. Sorry,
Robin Sharma.
Robin Sharma. It has a beautiful concept of a victory hour.
Hmm.
So he says, when you wake up in the morning, first 60 minutes of your day is your victory hour. And how do you break it? He says, do 20 minutes something for your health, 20 minutes something for your soul, and 20 minutes something for your mind, right? And he says it is impossible to do it every day, right? But if you can do it even 40% of your days, right? I think you will become a much better human being within yourself. Forget how the world looks at you, right? So
Hmm.
every morning when I wake up, so it's a chaotic house. I have a kid who goes to school, right? So it's a chaos morning, right? But somewhere I try to find those 60 minutes for myself. I spend 20 minutes for my health. I try to read for 20 minutes, which gives me a start of the day. Yeah. And 20 minutes, I do something which brings some shine in my eye. Either I call my brother up or mom up, or I have a walk down the street and have meet a friend in the community. But I've seen the days I do that, I become better. I can do better. I'm a better version of myself. So what I'm trying to say is find that anchor, right? And for some people, that anchor could be some heroes in their life, right? Like I have certain heroes in my life. Whenever I am in doubt, I go back to them and I ask them some questions, right? When I say I ask them some questions, those are some books I pull out and read through the flips to the pages, right? It could be your parents, it could be your friend, it could be your spouse, it could be your coach. I think everybody should get one coach, right? And that anchor helps you overcome the doubt within yourself and become better version of yourself every day.
Very nice. I think that's a very good framework, because the moment you have the clarity of what that anchor is,
Yeah.
and the moment you're driving yourself in that direction constantly, then you have a view of the top of the mountain, as we call it in the language
Yeah.
of Kilimanjaro. You know where you're heading. And if you don't know which mountain you're climbing, then you're all over the place. You're probably climbing, you're going through one topography, and then you're coming down, then you're climbing another one.
And sometimes in life that happens, Samir. Life
It
is
does.
not binary, right? It sometimes in life does happen, right? So there are period of time when I feel, where am I moving, right? Is my day productive? Have I done enough, right? Is so I think it's never binary. But again, when are you in that self doubt, right? I go back somewhere. I
Yeah.
try to, I want to go back somewhere. I gravitate towards somewhere, right? And I say, hey, let me just take this out, right? There's another, since you talk about books, there's another book called by Angela Duckworth on grit. It's a beautiful book on grit and resilience, right? And she says that discipline is stronger than motivation. So if you have the discipline of, going, sometimes going back to that anchor and say, oh, I'm in doubt, let me go back and find that out, right? It's a beautiful place to be sometimes when you are stuck and it just pops you out and pulls you out of that situation.
Yeah.
And I think we all need to be more happier in life, right? I see that's a big challenge in life today. I don't see happiness around so much. And that's what another thing I learned in the mountain. These people live in such limited resources, but they are so happy, Samir. The Tanzanian people whom I was climbing with, if you see the smile on their faces, they're just content, right? I don't know what makes them content. It's a difficult life they have, right? So I think that's one aspect of my life which makes me keep going.
I was going to go in a different direction, but now you pulled me in a different direction. I'm going to go
sorry,
to
sorry for that, but go
no,
ahead.
which is
Go
great.
ahead.
Which is great actually, because it's a very deep question that I have, which is about contentment. Uh, what makes one content? And I think this is a very important topic for people to recognize, because you just now said, with very limited resources, people are really very happy. Uh, and I'm sensing, and I'm just going to throw in something over here. It's because they don't have too much distractions. They don't have too much distractions, and they're very focused, and that is the reason why they are more happier.
Yes, yes.
But how can we live in a world where distraction is the norm, right? Uh, so, what is contentment to you, and how does one work towards it? And how are you working towards it, for example? Or are you working towards it?
I I wish I wish that I can strongly say yes, right? Because that won't be true. Um, so mind has this monkey, right? It keeps hopping, jumping here and there, and it gets gravitated. And today's world, it's so much busy, right? So again, this I got gravitated towards this mountain theme because, and I'm going again in August. Um, because what I observed there, Samir, what you told me is these people have a very clear focus in their life, right? And you have this game which you call the clarity game, right? And that's so interesting. Today you asked that question. These people, there were 17 people with us in a group of four, and everybody had a clarity in their life or in that journey what they need to achieve. Now, if somebody had to put the tent, and if he had put the tent, I could see there was a sense of achievement within them, right? A sense of that's what is to be done. I have to do it the best way I can do it, and I have done it, right? So my guests are okay, my guests are safe, right? My guests are protected. So I think contentment, as you said, is also thinking through what you want to achieve, Samir. That clarity of thought sometimes helps you become more content. Otherwise, as you said, you are just, your monkey mind is taking you all over the place, right? You are just hopping from one need to another need to another need, and that's quite obvious in today's world with so many things around you. That happens, but you have to somewhere pause, think what you need to achieve, and get that clarity in your head, and that might help. And for that, again, you go back to resources that you have around you.
Uh, I have a question on that, but I'll just take on a comment over here. And whoever is listening, I just want to say that you can throw your questions in through the comments as well. And we would be happy to unpack that as well while we go through the conversation. Uh,
It's an interesting comment out there.
do you want to reflect on that?
So it says, dealing with challenges coming our way and learn from it and deal with it, right? I think I think it's a very interesting thing, which challenges word, right? Challenges have two aspects to it. Challenges is also opportunities, right? Every challenge is an opportunity. So wherever you see challenges, if you can actually go and grab it, right, it can change and shift the way you live your life. It can convert an opportunity for you, and that's what I think May is saying over here. And when you face those challenges, it gives you a complete, self boost and a different perspective to move ahead in life. I think it's very important how we see challenges. Are they roadblocks or are they opportunities for you? Thanks, May, for bringing that up.
Uh, Instead of saying, are they roadblocks or are they opportunities? Can I add something? Are they pit stops in your journey to the top of the mountain? Right? Because if it is from a different mountain, because if you're dealt with a different challenge that you'd rather not address and work on because it's not aiding the journey that you are seeking or the mountain that you're climbing, then what's the point of going through that particular challenge? We have to pick our battles, they say, right? We have to pick
Of
the ones that
course.
we want to really fight for and grow through. And that is where my next question is coming as well, uh, which is linked to the title of the podcast, Leading with Clarity. How does a leader recognize or realize that he is operating from a space of clarity? What is what is an indicator that he is actually, because whatever decision he's taking, he believes he has clarity, right? And he is doing it because he feels that is right. But for somebody on the outside, they might look at and say he doesn't have clarity, which means he doesn't have more perspectives, or he's not really addressing it with clarity. So for a leader, according to you, what do you think is an indicator that he is operating with clarity, he is leading with clarity?
Oh, that came as a curveball. Let me just think through that. But before I come to that answer, I'll just give you a perspective on challenges.
Yeah.
You are so right. When you're a mountain, you have so many challenges. You're fighting cold, you're fighting fatigue, you're fighting unknowns, you're fighting everything, right? Discomfort, right? As you correctly said, you have to choose your challenges very well, right? So my coach used to say, uh, don't fight every battle every night. Fight the one which is most important one, right? So he said, conserve energy, sleep well, eat food even if you're not hungry, right? Don't worry how dirty you are, how muddy you are, or your bed is not clean, right? So pick the battle which is relevant. So yes, thank you for bringing the perspective. It's not that every challenge you need to pick up, Samir, but it is what is relevant at that point of time, which helps you in the journey, right? That's the challenge.
And May has said something along what you have just said.
That's
I love
true.
that May is so engaged with us on this.
But I meant, what, that's the way I normally do. But if we choose a challenge ourselves, there's a different outcome to it. Oh, perfect. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, back to the question. How
Okay.
does a leader recognize that he is leading with clarity?
Is there a scientific way? I don't know, Samir. I have to think more deeply. But I can give you some reflections, right? When you're leading with clarity, right? And this is, and I think it comes out very well when times are not good. In good times, leadership is easy, right? The leadership's reflection is when times are difficult, right? And that is the time when COVID was a point of inflection for every leadership. Um, some of the flavors that you are leading with clarity, right? Some of the flavors. One, your vision is clear, right? You know where you want to be, right? So if I take up examples of Airbnb or others, right? So your vision is clear, right? One thing is that. The second thing is you are constantly driving collaboration, right? You are making sure that you are uniting people for a collective journey, right? That's another sign which I feel is sign that you're leading with clarity. Third, there is an underlying trust. You provide people with an underlying trust to express, experiment themselves, right? That's the third. There's the third reflection when people are leading with clarity. And the fourth one, I think, is empowerment. When you let people take decisions which you feel that they are good at, right? You provide them with the tools and resources, but you allow people to take decisions. So if I can see in a leader these four aspects, or if I can demonstrate these four aspects, I feel there would be a sense of clarity where you want to go. I don't know if that answers your question in that manner, but that's what my self reflection is.
It is your answer,
Yeah,
and I
it's my
love that.
answer, right?
It doesn't. There is no set in stone answer for these kind of questions, right? It's about learning from different people and perspective, and
Yeah,
you're bringing that from the years of experience that you've been on the field, doing things and observing things. And I think that's one of the things that actually strike me with the little conversations that I've had with you. I've seen you're someone who thinks through and who is able to articulate your ideas pretty well,
thank you.
uh, which is the reason why I feel there's always something to learn from people such as you. And your answers is not being measured on any yardstick. It is each one taking and seeing what
Oh,
can they take
absolutely,
away for themselves, right?
absolutely.
So my question to you next is this: if you're a leader and you're following those four things that you mentioned, which is empowering people, making sure that you have a clear vision, you have giving opportunities to people, etc., then how do you balance being result driven, which is what a manager does, with being people driven, which is how you lead people, especially in high pressure projects? Because uh, just yesterday when I had this question, how do we operate as leaders when the pressure on us is to perform and deliver on KPIs so much, and we don't have the bandwidth to sit back, take a step back, and start thinking of leading? So how do you balance that, according to you? I mean, yeah.
So one thing I would differ with you, Samir, and because I think both of it can go together. I don't think they are two different things. You can still lead people in a complex environment with driving results. I don't think you have to compromise on one over other, right?
So
And
what is
and
missing because of which the person asked that question? What is missing for that person or that manager
yeah,
who is not able to operate from both space and tend to operate only from the lens of being a manager?
I tell you what's missing, and this is my personal experience. I think I think some people know how to put people together. I think some people know how to lead people together. But I think many don't know how to build that purpose. I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing which is missing in leadership for many years, and I think now it is coming into play a little bit. It was there, but there's somewhere it vacuums, right? The purpose of the group or the purpose of the organization has to be aligned with the individual purpose. If you can get that aligned, Samir, people will achieve complex projects, achieve their KPIs with limited resources, in a tight timeline, and they will do it. Yeah, because the purpose is very clear. It's aligned to your own purpose, right? The, our I tell you, our professional world is much simpler. Life is much more complex, Samir, right? Life is much more complex. Um, there's a gentleman called Eric Weinmeier. I don't know again if you ever read about him. Uh, he's a blind guy, and he's the first blind person to summit Mount Everest. Yeah, and he responded back to me when I wrote him on LinkedIn that I'm climbing. So he smiled and said, "Have a great journey." And and when I was reading through his book, he said he had to overcome so many biases, and he had to, it's climbing Mount Everest is not easy. You need a team of people, right? You need a team. Imagine you have a blind guy in a line of pack with a 3-inch walking path on 8,000 meters. If you fall, 16 people die, right? Imagine the trust people have on him and the trust he has on those people who are leading him on the top of the world, right? Because the purpose was clear and the purpose was aligned. So I think, and this is my personal belief, if the purpose is clear, Samir, then the manager can achieve whatever that manager wants to with that set of people within those resources, within that timeline, in a high complex environment.
My next question: how does one discover their purpose? What is purpose to you?
Oh, that's evolving right now. You give me goosebumps, right? So these are these are personal territories, right? But I have still not defined my purpose. But one thing I have realized, and this is very personal, I'm sharing on a social platform, is when you lose someone very close to you, yeah, death is powerful, right, Samir? I don't know. Everybody experiences it, right? Everybody will have it around them. Death is very powerful. When you lose someone very close to you, somewhere it shakes you up and says, "What are you doing? You know, what are you waking up every morning and striving for and cribbing about and crying for?" Right? So that's when you sit down and think, what's my purpose of being on this earth, right? What is my purpose? I still haven't found mine, but what I can tell you, what I enjoy doing, I enjoy sharing what I have within me with people. And if that helps anybody, even a percent or even 1%, I sleep with quite a peace at night. So I don't know if that's a purpose, but that's what I have started enjoying from that point where I have lost a very dear one in my life.
So you're saying to identify your purpose, and I'm sorry for your loss, but my question is also about what is purpose? I mean, how do you define it? Your son or daughter or somebody comes and asks you, "Dad, what is purpose, and how will I know when I've discovered it?" Uh,
Is it a eureka moment, Samir? I don't know, but I think sometimes you sit back and reflect, and then you figure out what brings peace to you. I
hmm,
think that carves the way towards your purpose, right? In the noise of your life, sometimes something brings peace to you, right? Something makes you, how do I say it? It calms you down. It's just a stillness in yourself, and it brings pure joy, right? When I reached on the top of that mountain, I looked around to my trainer and said, "Thank you." And he said, "Why are you thanking me?" His sole purpose was to make sure I reached that mountain safely,
hmm.
right? And the happiness that I saw on his face that morning, with me reaching that mountain and he climbing it for last 23 years, was undefining. right? So I think purpose is where it brings that. I don't know if it's going too theoretical, but I believe purpose is when it brings calmness and happiness and peace to yourself.
I have a definition of purpose, and I'll share it with you to get your reflection on that, or a framework. But before that, I'd
Sure.
like to bring on the different things that May has been sharing in the comments. She's been talking about how uh, leading with clarity is something that not only as business in leadership, but it's also
Parents,
as a
absolutely,
parent. As a parent,
absolutely,
everyone is a
absolutely,
leader. So there
absolutely.
is something that we can all take away within that context as well. And you rightly mentioned that life is much more difficult than
Oh,
business because
absolutely.
parenting is so much more difficult, right? So that's where the
and
first.
and and that's one thing which you can't walk out of, right?
Yes,
You can
yes.
walk out of everything in your life, but you can't walk out of
You can't resign
relationships.
and say, I'm done
I
with this.
don't, I don't can't parent anymore, right? So yes, you're right. And thank you. I think parenting is the most complex leadership.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I'm sure May
and
will agree with this. May has also shared about when we were discussing about the purpose, she said that it's easier done on short term than long term to keep the consistency and resilience towards that purpose.
correct,
And then she was
correct.
asking this question, how can we extend this to long term goals? And I think long term goals can get aligned with when we define a purpose. And I'll share
Yeah,
with you what I hold to myself dearly as the framework for identifying purpose.
sure, sure.
uh, and I have found it has served me quite well. So, to me, purpose is when you can identify your greatest God given gift, your strengths, and then use it to serve others.
So
Use
that's the
those strengths.
ikigai, right?
So, every single day, you're using your strengths and you're strengthening the strengths. So you're using it as a muscle and you're strengthening it every single day. So it brings you joy and peace because you're focused on your strengths. And then you're using it to serve others. And that service
Correct.
is giving you money and everything because you're able to make a livelihood as well. When I discovered the world of coaching, I was shocked that people would pay me for this. I was like, what? For asking questions and sitting and having a conversation.
No, but
Right?
because people think question is the easiest thing to do, right? Questioning everything is the
Oh,
easiest, right? But it is
oh,
not. It is not, right?
when they come to play the clarity game, by the way, they find it the most difficult thing to do because that's what they have to do, and they realize it's so damn difficult. But yeah,
I will take this. I will take this your statement of that strength and what your greatest strength is to. I'm sure you have read the book Ikigai, right? So it says what you're good at, what does the world need, yeah,
yeah,
and what you can make money out of it. I think that's the third circle, right? And the center place is where your ikigai is, right?
yeah,
And as you correctly said, if an extension of that could be how you define your purpose as well. What I also feel, Samir, I don't know how, I think everybody has a life, right? I think there is a point when you are forced and shaken a little bit to define that purpose. Many people have to have that moment of poise, stoic moment where they actually sit and define their purpose, right? And that could be a hard moment, that could be a good moment, right? I'm just thinking around that lines.
absolutely. You know what's sad, Anirudh? We are coming up
I
to
know.
we
No,
could go on and on,
no,
but
no, for sure.
before I ask you the last question, we have the last reflection from May, who's been
Sure.
an ardent conversationalist within this conversation. She said, "Thanks for taking the time to read my comments. I want to share also on purpose. I believe my purpose on earth is to grow and build this
Wow.
life in mankind. But the
Wow.
question is, what is the means I'm using in order to achieve that? That is what I'm looking for."
True.
So,
True.
so
True.
it is a journey that every one of us is actually consciously or unconsciously looking for. And the moment you are not activating your strengths, I feel, and I think one of the best ways to identify your strengths is the Gallup strengths. Go
Oh,
take the
yeah.
Gallup different strengths and you identify your
I've
strengths, and
done
then
it. Yeah.
you put it into action every single day. Make sure that it is a part of how you're operating, not that you take the test and then you after 3 years, oh, I have done it, that report is somewhere, I don't know, I don't remember what it is.
Mine top five is connectedness,
Oh, wow.
harmony. I'm a connectedness, harmony, activator, and another one. Connectedness is my top one, and second is harmony.
Wow.
Yeah,
Connected
but
is my number three.
yeah, it has its basement also, right, Samir? So this is a long
Yeah,
conversation. I'll get to that.
yeah. So for me, it is strategic ideation, connectedness, positivity, and woo. And I
Oh
think
wow.
that's why it makes it easy for us to have this conversation, because none of this was scripted for us, right? For both of us.
Yeah.
We did not have this conversation before. We did not discuss what we're going to be talking about. I threw a few curveballs at you as you said it.
Thank you.
But the whole idea is, when we start connecting, that's when we unlock the wisdom in us and identify how to make meaning of the experiences that we have had in life, right?
True. True.
So my last question to you before we sign off is this: if you could give just one piece of advice or clarity to the next generation of leaders, and you had one thing to say, imagine this is the last thing that you can say, and then after this you're gone. And you said death is a great enabler, right? You think of uh, death as finale. So think of, you have one last message to give to the leaders of the future. And I know you didn't have time to prepare, but then I'm forcing you to take up the entire wisdom of your life. Think you're sharing this with your kids before you pass away, or with the generation of leaders or whoever, and one message that you want to give, what would that be for you?
I'll keep it short. I think I would say be curious and be humble. This is what I will leave people with, right? I think curiosity will help you know more what the world is all about, and humility will help you serve mankind better in whichever shape and form, whether as a leader, as a parent, as a guardian, or anybody. That's what I feel.
Beautifully said. I mean, to say it is easier than to practice
Oh,
it, right? Every single day.
tell me about
So
it.
just like you said, putting it in action every single day, every single moment, without compromise, is the challenge. And that is the opportunity for growth. Thank you so much, Anirudh. You've been
Thanks.
wonderful.
Thanks,
Such a lot
Samir.
of learning from you, from Kilimanjaro, and from all the books that you've read and all the experiences that you've gone through. It's been a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Thanks, Samir. We'll catch up next time. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.